In this example, we're going to solve this equation by factoring. And the method of factoring that we're going to use for this specific example is the difference of squares. So we always want to follow these 4 steps on the right-hand side whenever we're solving by factoring. The first thing, I want to make sure that all of my terms are on one side of the equation. Right? If they're not on one side, I want to go ahead and move them all over to one side and set that equation equal to 0. So in this example, x squared minus 4 equals 0. We don't have to do that extra step, so my first step is taken care of for us. My second step is to determine my factoring method. So looking at x squared minus 4, since there's only 2 terms in this equation, or in this expression, I really only have 2 options. My first is to always check for a GCF. Right? I can see between x squared and negative 4, I don't have a GCF that's greater than 1 to factor out. So I'm really only left with a difference of squares. I know that x squared is a perfect square, and I know that 4 is a perfect square, so my factoring method that I am going to use here is the difference of squares. If you don't remember how to factor difference of squares, right, I've got this general format here in blue, right, that tells me anytime I have 2 terms that are both perfect squares and separated by a minus sign, right, I can factor those by taking the square root of each and having opposite signs. So factoring by difference of squares here, I'm going to take the square root of each of these. The square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 4 is 2. And I want to have opposite signs in each of my factors. Once I factor this, I want to set each of these equal to 0 and solve for x to find my solutions. So my 2 solutions of this quadratic equation are negative 2 and 2. Again, looking at what our solutions actually mean on a coordinate graph, right? I went ahead and graphed this in Desmos. Right? This is a great way to check your solution to make sure that you are solving correctly. Right? So all I did was type in that quadratic function that we started with. Right? So that x squared minus 4 is what I put into Desmos, and this is what curve or parabola was graphed. Right. So checking my solutions, right, we can see that the parabola has a 0 at negative 2 and positive 2. And so that shows me that I solved this quadratic function correctly because my solutions match up with my zeros.